This is the plaintiff, Jeffrey. He says he couldn't get his boat into reverse, so he took it to the defendant's marine repair shop to have it repaired. Well, he wasted the whole summer waiting for the defendants to fix his boat because they're inept and they don't have a clue about how to repair motors. He's suing for $4,764.19 for the money he wasted paying them and additional monies spent on repairs. These are the defendants, Steve Rose and William. Steve says he only looked at the plaintiff's boat and soon realized he didn't have the equipment to pull the motor out, so he referred him to William, who had a motor lift. William says the plaintiff was as impatient as they come and started complaining the work was taking too long, so he decided to try and steal the boat from his shop. When the cops explained he had to pay him before he could take his boat away, he only paid for the parts but not the labor. Oh, him? No way. They're accused of being land lovers. The defendants have filed a countersuit for $2,200 for labor and $2,000 for defamation, respectively.
All parties, please use your right hand.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case in the docket. The plaintiff couldn't get his boat in reverse, took it to the defendant. The defendant couldn't figure out how to fix it. But the defendant says the plaintiff was impatient and tried to steal the boat without paying. It's the case of whatever floats your boat.
Thank you, Douglas.
Absolutely, man.
Okay, Jeffrey, you've asked us not to use your last name. You're suing OBE Mobile Marine and Steve Rose. Who's that?
That's mine.
Okay, and William, who's asked us not to use his last name either. That's you, right?
Yeah.
For $4,764.19 that you say you are out as a result of faulty workmanship and lack of follow-through on a boat that you bought that they repaired. All right, tell me what happens. You bought what kind of boat?
I bought a 91 Proline, 21-foot V6.
How old?
A 91.
Oh, okay. And what happened?
It had a reverse issue with the boat, so I touched base with Steve Rose.
That's you.
That's me.
Uh-huh.
So I wanted to get it fixed for the season.
What did you think was wrong with it?
I thought it was an adjustment or a shift cable.
Okay, so you thought it was something simple. So
Right.
you get the boat, and where do you tinker with boats? Right on your own property?
I'm actually a mobile marine mechanic. I'll go to where the
okay.
boats are, but since the travel distance was so long, I had him bring the boat down to me.
Okay, so he trailers a boat down.
Trailed the boat down, and just inspecting it, I noticed that the drive itself had a lot more issues than just a steering problem.
Okay, so you tell him what?
I showed him what was wrong with the boat, and I said, I have a friend of mine that works in the business down the road that he has the equipment, he can do the job.
What
I said,
equipment
but,
was necessary?
engine hoist for
Okay.
one thing, and
So you tell him that, and then you refer him to...
and let him know it's going to be
Okay,
about
are you in business with William?
No.
Okay. Did you tell him that?
Yes.
Yeah, he knew.
So he knew how, because he drops a boat off at your house?
Steve told him that I did it
well,
on the side.
how does a boat get from Steve to you?
Did you bring it down?
Did you move it?
No,
Steve moved it.
I don't know who moved it.
Okay, somebody moved it. All right, so it ends up at your place. You approve that.
Well, I went to Steve's house to look at the boat and discuss the work that needed to be done. That he said he didn't have the tools. He was going to bring it to his partner who had the tools and a lift and a shop.
All right, so what was your understanding that William was going to do?
He was going to do the repairs that we talked about.
That
Steve
who
and I
talked
talked about. Well, Steve told me that the boat would have all new parts and I'd be all set to go.
Oh, I'm sorry, sweetheart. I don't deal in fantasy land. Steve never told you that for $3,500 your boat would have all new parts. That's just silly. What did you think you were going to get for $3,500 on a 1991 boat and engine that's old enough to vote? New outdrive, new housing, and what else?
A running boat that we could go enjoy the summer
Okay, so
with.
that's it. That's all you're going to give me. Now I'm going to ask you, sir, what was your understanding of why you had the boat?
Originally, Steve told me that it needed a shift cable, but when I went up to look at it, we looked at the gimbal housing, which is this part of the steering unit that the outdrive bolts to, and it was so worn out, it was a safety hazard. So it needed to be replaced. In order to do that, you have to pull the motor.
Okay.
The bolts.
So who do you talk to for permission with that? Because you're going to expect somebody to pay you. And
Yeah.
Right.
But
So
he
how
knew-
much are they going to pay you?
He knew that was before I even got the boat, that the housing
How did
was
he
bad.
know that?
because Steve told him.
This is before the boat went to him.
Okay, so you
So
tell
he
him.
knew about the money. He knew about the
What money?
The $4,000. It said it's going to be right. He said $3,500. That was the.
Is it 3,500 or is it 4,000?
Well, we said around. It started off at 3,500,
Okay.
but then as the work, and William can tell you, progressed, there was more things that were involved in it.
Did
So
he
that's
ever
what
pay
the
you a
money-
deposit?
No.
So if you're going to start repairing the boat, why wouldn't you ask for a deposit so you could pay for parts out of that?
It was Steve's job. I just didn't know what the deal was, so I just paid for him out of my pocket.
And what was your theory? Is that you would get recompense from Steve?
I would get paid for the job totally when I got
By
finished.
whom?
Either Steve or him. He started showing up all the
You
time.
weren't worried. Either Steve or he were going to pay you for the
No,
job.
he knew exactly how much it was
I'm
costing.
gonna ask you guys to stop saying, he knew. That's not an answer to the question I asked, okay?
So, do boats sound like fun or a pain in the butt?
More like a pain in the butt.
Because?
I mean, who wants to be out in the sea 24/7?
Me. Honestly, me. What do you say? But boats have their issues.
Yeah, they do. They're I wouldn't.
If you had all the money in the world.
I'm not on a boat. Not on a boat.
Because?
I get seasick easily.
Oh, you get seasick. It's not where I was going, but okay. Going inside the courtroom.
The question I asked is, who did you talk to who authorized you to do the next step and the next step and the next step? Because my understanding, based on your answer, is that you would do one thing and you would see another thing was necessary, right?
Yes.
Okay, so who are you talking to get permission to do the next step or to get clear? And who are you quoting prices to?
To this gentleman over here.
Okay, so then tell me the first time you talked to him, what was the price you quoted?
It was like $3,500 with just replacing the gimbal housing. And I told him at
Can I
one
ask you a
point-
question? Is there anything in writing between you guys?
No.
Is there an email, a text, something documenting,
No, he
listen,
just
there's
called.
a change order here, I have to do this, I have to do that.
He called. That was it.
So how are you going to prove all those things we're talking about?
I put it on the list of stuff, but
Well,
he,
no, you wrote lists, but all the lists come into fruition after the police end up at your house. There are no receipts beforehand, nothing signed, that kind of thing. But that's all right. Let me see the receipts for all the parts that you have this list, you have a counterclaim against them because you feel that you were underpaid. Let's back it up. He gets tired of waiting. He goes over to your house. He says, I'm done with you. It's August what?
25th.
And so he wants his boat back. His kids and his wife are driving him crazy. The summer's over. He can't go out on a boat. He doesn't trust you. You keep telling him it'll be longer. So he goes over to your house. He says, give me my boat back. And then you say, well, you got to pay me. All right. You are telling me in your counterclaim, Judge, I have over $2,000 in just parts here. You say that to the police because you won't release the boat and you call the police, right?
Yes.
Police come and what do the police say?
We had to agree on a price, or I had to go to the courthouse and have a court date to get my boat back.
All right, so you out there, you two agree that you're going to pay him $2,000. Is anything written down that
Yes.
day between you guys?
I have a receipt.
Can I see what was written down? So the police tell you guys have to agree on a price so he can take his boat?
Yeah, he came over to the house when I was at work to take the boat without paying for anything. So he calls up and says, I want my boat or I'm going to move your tractor out of the way and I'm going to take it. So I came home from work and then he called the police, which I was going to do anyways.
Okay.
And I had the receipts and some of them were actually in the boat when he picked it up.
Oh, that was stupid. Take them out. They're your receipts. They're not
He
his.
told me I couldn't go in the boat again.
Well, tell the police, can you please just get my receipts? Because this is obviously going to end up in court. You don't think the police would have done that?
I mean, the
All right,
outdrive.
now you've got a counterclaim against him, Steve, for defamation. Let's talk about that.
Well, basically, after this was going on, he's calling me up, and I was like, listen, you got to talk to Rick about what's going on. It's a separate company. But then after a while, next I know, he's on my Facebook page saying, blowing it up about unreliable, don't talk to him. And I'm like, hey, I referred you to somebody else. I never even put a wrench on your boat. And there's one instance where the lady says, oh yeah, there was, we were down the dock and one of our friends, his boat broke down and somebody mentioned, call Steve. And we said, no way, don't call him. This is what happened to us, which I had nothing to do with. So I'm losing work because of what they put on the malicious claims that they made on my Facebook page based on.
Can I ask you a question? Because I've seen this situation come up before where someone's trying to be helpful, and so they refer someone to someone else. His position is, look, I brought my boat to you. You brought my boat to him. You're in. And everybody expects everything's going to go right and everything's going to be fine. And then the idea is he's going to pay you, and then you'll take your cut, and then you pay him. That's what everybody expects. I know how this stuff works. All right? And but then it doesn't. And now people want to do the Michael Jackson moonwalk and say, I'm completely separate. And that makes it a little more complicated on a defamation case. Based on what I'm looking at, the additional repairs that you did have nothing to do with your agreement to pay $3,500 for these other repairs that was the original agreement. According to your testimony, the original agreement is the bell housing and the outdrive for $3,500. So if what happened was the bell housing and the gimbal housing and the new starter at $2,000, it sounds like you did fine. Now you've got a counterclaim against him because you feel that at $2,000 it wasn't fine, and that he owes you another $2,200 in labor because you are into it for X amount of money on parts. Your problem is that you can't prove the basic tenet of your lawsuit, which is I am into it for X amount of money on parts. That makes it very hard for you to come here and demand, a scientific, mathematical calculation of what you're due when you don't even know what you're due. So you're not going to win on that. Now, Steve, I got to tell you, your defamation case is not looking very good now. I don't think you were sufficiently divorced from it for him not to be able to have an opinion. I'm telling you to stop it, though. All right? I'm just telling you. So 0 on your defamation case, 0 on your labor, and 0 on all the other things you needed to do to get your 1991 boat up to par. Good luck, gentlemen.
So this is one of those cases where neither party is going to be very happy, I suspect. What do you think, Jeffrey? You didn't get anything. You didn't win your case.
I respect their decision.
You do?
Yeah. It's over. I'm done with it. I'll fix my own boat.
Okay.
You just got to watch people you do business with a little closer.
All right. Well, now Steve and William are on their way out of the courtroom. Gentlemen, I think you both have learned something out of this case as well, haven't you? Especially you.
Oh, yeah.
You're looking for a couple $1,000. You didn't have one single receipt at all.
There were receipts, but some of them were in the back of the boat with parts boxes.
Yeah, but what I mean is you didn't have receipts here in court.
No, because he took the boat.
Yeah. And you've learned something, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Do the work myself and then just take care.
Well, okay, all right. I know you're friends, but you've learned a valuable lesson. Gentlemen, thank you very much. All right, good luck to you. Harvey?
By the way, Doug, if you talk smack on somebody on Facebook and what you're saying are lies, you can be sued for defamation.